Scheherazade's stories. Tonight's story is about watching and being watched. There was one room Daniel never stayed in. It wasn't locked, it wasn't hidden, it wasn't forbidden. It was simply the room he always passed. Every apartment he lived in had one. Sometimes it was a spare bedroom, sometimes a small office. Once, it was just an alcove near a window that could have been anything. Daniel furnished the rest of the space carefully. He chose couches that felt neutral, tables that didn't invite clutter, lamps with warm but indirect light. He liked apartments that felt finished quickly, as if he could step into them without leaving fingerprints behind. But there was always one room that remained undecided. He told himself it was practical, no rush, no immediate need. He liked keeping options open. What he didn't say out loud was that once a room had a purpose, it stopped being temporary, and Daniel preferred temporary. The first time someone mentioned it was Clara. She had been in his life for almost a year, which already felt like a quiet miracle to him. She moved through spaces differently than he did. She opened drawers without asking, left books half-finished on tables, made tea and forgot about it. She noticed things. One evening, she stood in the doorway of the unused room, arms crossed, looking thoughtful. "You never go in here," she said. Daniel leaned against the wall behind her. "I do, sometimes." She shook her head. "No, you pass it. That's different." He smiled lightly. "It's just a room." Clara turned to look at him. "It's an entire part of your apartment that doesn't exist yet." "That's dramatic," he said. She smiled faintly. Everything important sounds dramatic before it's named. Daniel didn't answer. They didn't argue about it. They rarely argued about anything. Clara wasn't confrontational. She noticed, commented, then let things rest. 2 weeks later, she moved out. Not because of the room, not directly. She said she felt like she was living in a place that was always being prepared for someone else, someone who hadn't arrived yet, someone who might never arrive. Daniel nodded, understanding more than he wanted to admit. After she left, the room stayed empty. Years passed. Daniel moved cities, changed jobs, changed furniture, changed the way he described himself to new people. But the pattern remained. There was always a room he didn't enter. He told friends it was a storage space, or that he hadn't decided yet, or that he liked minimalism. No one pushed, until the building manager did. Daniel had just moved into a new apartment, older building, high ceilings, long corridors that echoed slightly when you walked too fast. The manager was a woman in her late 40s, efficient and observant. She handed him the keys, pointed out the utilities, explained the rules. As she turned to leave, she paused. "Most people make the extra room a bedroom," she said casually, "or an office." Daniel nodded. "I'll see." She looked at him for a second longer than necessary. "Just don't leave the empty room too long," she said. "Rooms don't like that." He laughed politely, assuming it was a joke. She didn't smile. The first night, Daniel slept poorly. He dreamed of hallways that looped back into themselves, doors that opened into rooms he didn't recognize, rooms that felt familiar in a way that made his chest tighten. He woke up before dawn, heart racing, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was silent, too silent. He sat up and listened. Nothing. Still, the feeling lingered. On the third night, he noticed the light. It was faint at first, a soft glow under the door of the unused room. Daniel stood in the hallway, barefoot, staring at it. He hadn't turned any lights on. Slowly, he reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked. It never was. Inside, the room was exactly as he'd left it. Empty, clean, pale walls, one window overlooking the street. The light came from nowhere he could see. He stood there for a moment, then stepped back into the hallway and closed the door. The light disappeared. He told himself it was stress. Work had been demanding, the move had been tiring. Old buildings made noises. Old buildings settled. The The next morning, he found a chair in the room. It wasn't his. It was wooden, simple, placed carefully near the window. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway. He checked the rest of the apartment. The door was locked, the windows were closed. Nothing else was disturbed. He called the building manager. "I think someone entered my apartment," he said. She listened calmly. "Is anything missing?" "No," he said. "There's just something that wasn't there before." "What is it?" she asked. "A chair." There was a pause. "In the empty room?" she asked. Daniel's stomach tightened. "Yes." She sighed softly. "I was hoping it wouldn't start this soon." "What?" Daniel said. "Start what?" "I'll come by this afternoon. It's easier to explain in person." When she arrived, she didn't look surprised. She walked straight to the room, stood inside, and nodded. "It always begins with furniture," she said. Daniel stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She turned to him. "How long has this room been empty?" "A few days. Here. Years, I guess, in other places." She studied him. "You always leave one room unused." Daniel didn't answer. She continued. "Rooms exist to hold parts of people. When you don't give them anything, they start holding what you avoid." "That's not possible," Daniel said. She met his gaze. "Neither is pretending you don't know what I mean." Over the next few days, more things appeared. A lamp, a small rug, a bookshelf with books Daniel recognized but didn't remember owning. They were all things he might have chosen, things that matched his taste too well to be random. He tried removing them. Each time they returned, always arranged slightly differently, more intentional. One evening, he found a notebook on the desk that wasn't there before. The first page was blank. The second page contained a single sentence. "You don't stay because you're afraid of what will remain." Daniel closed the notebook and sat on the floor, back against the wall, breathing slowly. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the notebook was open to a new page. "Rooms remember what you leave behind." He began spending time in the room. Not much at first, just standing, sitting, watching the light change through the window. Nothing dramatic happened, but he felt something shift. Memories surfaced, moments he'd dismissed as insignificant, times he'd left just before being asked to commit, conversations he'd ended early, opportunities he'd declined because they felt permanent. The room seemed to listen. One evening, he spoke out loud. "I don't know what you want," he said. The light flickered. On the desk, a new page appeared. "Stay long enough to find out." Daniel laughed bitterly. "And then what?" The answer came slowly, line by line, as if written by an unseen hand. "Then the room stops being empty and you stop being temporary." Daniel thought of Clara, of the look in her eyes when she'd stood in the doorway years ago, of how easily he'd let her go. He stayed. Hours passed. Nothing happened. And yet something did. The room felt different, less expectant, less tense. The next morning, the building manager returned. She stood in the doorway, observing. "You stayed," she said. Daniel nodded. "All night." She smiled for the first time. "Good," she said. "Then it won't need to do anything else." "Do what?" Daniel asked. "Remind you." After that, the room stopped changing. The furniture remained, the notebook stayed blank. Daniel began using the space. Not with a plan, not with urgency. He placed his own chair where the other one had been, moved the desk closer to the window, opened the books, not caring if he finished them. The room became real, and something else did too. Weeks later, Daniel received a message from Clara. "I walked past your old street today," she wrote. "I thought of that room you never used." Daniel stared at the screen for a long time. Then he typed back, "I'm using it now." She replied a minute later, "That figures." He smiled. The room remained quiet. No more lights, no more notes. It didn't need to speak anymore. Daniel had learned how to stay, and for the first time, the apartment felt complete. Scheherazade's stories. Tonight's story is about watching and being watched.
When Daniel first noticed the woman across the street, he was sure she hadn't seen him. She lived in the building opposite his apartment. Third floor, corner window. The light was always on late, casting a warm yellow square into the night. Daniel worked nights, long, quiet hours at his desk, laptop open, city humming softly beneath him. At some point, looking up became a habit, and then noticing her did too. She sat by the window with a book most nights, sometimes with tea, sometimes just staring out, unfocused, like she was thinking about something far away. She never closed the curtains. That was the part Daniel couldn't stop thinking about. People closed their curtains, especially at night, especially women living alone. It was instinct, privacy, but she didn't. At first, Daniel told himself he was projecting meaning onto something ordinary. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't care. But after weeks of the same scene, the same window, the same lack of curtains, it stopped feeling accidental. It felt deliberate. He didn't tell anyone, not because it was a secret worth protecting, but because saying it out loud would make it sound strange, like he was the strange one. Still, he watched. Not constantly, not obsessively, just occasionally. A glance here, a longer look there, enough to notice patterns. She read at the same time every night. She turned pages slowly. She always paused halfway through, like she lost focus. She never looked directly at the window across from her. Until one night, she did. Daniel froze. She lifted her eyes and looked straight at him. Not startled, not curious. Calm. She held his gaze for a full 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a flirtatious one, a knowing smile. And then she turned off the light. Daniel sat back in his chair, heart pounding. "Okay," he whispered to the empty room. "Okay." The next night, the light was on again. She was there again. Same chair, same book, same open window. As if nothing had happened. Daniel told himself not to look. He looked anyway. She didn't glance up this time, but something felt different. She'd moved the chair slightly closer to the window, just enough that the light hit her face more clearly. Daniel swallowed. He tried to focus on his work, but his eyes kept drifting back, every few minutes, then every minute. At some point, she stood up and walked out of frame. Daniel waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. He told himself it was ridiculous to feel disappointed. Then she came back, but now she was holding her phone. She sat down, scrolled for a moment, then typed something. Daniel's phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown number. You don't hide it very well. Daniel stared at his screen, blood rushing in his ears. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Daniel, who is this?" The reply came immediately. "Unknown. You already know." Daniel looked up at the window. She was staring directly at him now. Not startled, not curious. Calm. She held his gaze for a full 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a flirtatious one, a knowing smile. And then she turned off the light. Daniel sat back in his chair, heart pounding. "Okay," he whispered to the empty room. "Okay." The next night, the light was on again. She was there again. Same chair, same book, same open window. As if nothing had happened. Daniel told himself not to look. He looked anyway. She didn't glance up this time, but something felt different. She'd moved the chair slightly closer to the window, just enough that the light hit her face more clearly. Daniel swallowed. He tried to focus on his work, but his eyes kept drifting back, every few minutes, then every minute. At some point, she stood up and walked out of frame. Daniel waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. He told himself it was ridiculous to feel disappointed. Then she came back, but now she was holding her phone. She sat down, scrolled for a moment, then typed something. Daniel's phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown number. You don't hide it very well. Daniel stared at his screen, blood rushing in his ears. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Daniel, who is this?" The reply came immediately. "Unknown. You already know. Daniel looked up at the window. She was staring directly at him now, not startled, not curious, calm. She held his gaze for a full 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a flirtatious one, a knowing smile. And then she turned off the light. Daniel sat back in his chair, heart pounding. "Okay," he whispered to the empty room. "Okay." The next night, the light was on again. She was there again. Same chair, same book, same open window. As if nothing had happened. Daniel told himself not to look. He looked anyway. She didn't glance up this time, but something felt different. She'd moved the chair slightly closer to the window, just enough that the light hit her face more clearly. Daniel swallowed. He tried to focus on his work, but his eyes kept drifting back, every few minutes, then every minute. At some point, she stood up and walked out of frame. Daniel waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. He told himself it was ridiculous to feel disappointed. Then she came back, but now she was holding her phone. She sat down, scrolled for a moment, then typed something. Daniel's phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown number. You don't hide it very well. Daniel stared at his screen, blood rushing in his ears. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Daniel, who is this?" The reply came immediately. "Unknown. You already know." Daniel looked up at the window. She was staring directly at him now, not startled, not curious, calm. She held his gaze for a full 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a flirtatious one, a knowing smile. And then she turned off the light. Daniel sat back in his chair, heart pounding. "Okay," he whispered to the empty room. "Okay." The next night, the light was on again. She was there again. Same chair, same book, same open window. As if nothing had happened. Daniel told himself not to look. He looked anyway. She didn't glance up this time, but something felt different. She'd moved the chair slightly closer to the window, just enough that the light hit her face more clearly. Daniel swallowed. He tried to focus on his work, but his eyes kept drifting back, every few minutes, then every minute. At some point, she stood up and walked out of frame. Daniel waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. He told himself it was ridiculous to feel disappointed. Then she came back, but now she was holding her phone. She sat down, scrolled for a moment, then typed something. Daniel's phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown number. You don't hide it very well. Daniel stared at his screen, blood rushing in his ears. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Daniel, who is this?" The reply came immediately. "Unknown. You already know." Daniel looked up at the window. She was staring directly at him now, not startled, not curious, calm. She held his gaze for a full 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a flirtatious one, a knowing smile. And then she turned off the light. Daniel sat back in his chair, heart pounding. "Okay," he whispered to the empty room. "Okay." The next night, the light was on again. She was there again. Same chair, same book, same open window. As if nothing had happened. Daniel told himself not to look. He looked anyway. She didn't glance up this time, but something felt different. She'd moved the chair slightly closer to the window, just enough that the light hit her face more clearly. Daniel swallowed. He tried to focus on his work, but his eyes kept drifting back, every few minutes, then every minute. At some point, she stood up and walked out of frame. Daniel waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. He told himself it was ridiculous to feel disappointed. Then she came back, but now she was holding her phone. She sat down, scrolled for a moment, then typed something. Daniel's phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown number. You don't hide it very well. Daniel stared at his screen, blood rushing in his ears. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Daniel, who is this?" The reply came immediately. Unknown. You already know. Daniel looked up at the window. She was staring directly at him now. Not startled, not curious. Calm. She held his gaze for a full 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a flirtatious one, a knowing smile. And then she turned off the light. Daniel sat back in his chair, heart pounding. "Okay," he whispered to the empty room. "Okay." The next night, the light was on again. She was there again. Same chair, same book, same open window. As if nothing had happened. Daniel told himself not to look. He looked anyway. She didn't glance up this time, but something...
The call log didn't make sense. Not in the obvious way. Not like a wrong number or a missed call you don't remember. This was worse. Liam stared at his phone, sitting alone in his car in the parking lot outside his apartment building, engine off, keys still in the ignition. The screen glowed faintly in the dark. Outgoing call. Duration, 18 minutes. Time, 1:43 a.m. He didn't make calls at 1:43 a.m. He never did. The number wasn't saved, just digits. No name, no country code, nothing familiar. Liam scrolled down. There were 3 more calls to the same number, all outgoing, all between 1:40 and 2:15 a.m., all long. He checked the date. Last night. His stomach tightened. He was home last night. He remembered that clearly. He'd cooked pasta, watched half an episode of something he didn't finish, went to bed early because he'd felt exhausted for no reason. He didn't remember making any calls. Liam locked the phone, then unlocked it again, like the screen might change its mind. It didn't. He sat there for a long moment, listening to the distant city sounds, trying to decide whether this was anxiety or something real. Finally, he tapped the number. The phone rang. Once, twice. Then someone answered. "Liam," a voice said. Not a question, not surprised, like they'd been waiting. Liam's grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" A pause. Breathing. Soft, controlled. "You don't remember," the voice said. "That's not great." Liam's pulse spiked. "How do you know my name?" Another pause. "You told me," the voice said. "Last night. More than once." Liam swallowed. "I didn't call anyone last night." Silence. Then a quiet, almost careful response. "You did." Liam felt a chill creep up his arms. "No, I was asleep." The voice didn't argue. It didn't laugh. It just said, "You fell asleep after." "After what?" "After you said what you'd been avoiding for years." Liam leaned back against the seat, heart pounding. "This isn't funny." "I know," the voice said. "That's why I didn't hang up." Liam stared at the dashboard. "If you're trying to scam me, you're doing a terrible job." The voice exhaled softly. "Check your messages." Liam frowned. "What messages?" "Drafts," the voice said. Liam hesitated, then pulled the phone away from his ear and opened his messages app. He tapped the drafts folder. There was one draft, timestamped 1:58 a.m. He hadn't opened his drafts in years. The text inside was short. "I'm scared that if I say it out loud, it becomes real." Liam's mouth went dry. The voice spoke again, quieter now. "You kept repeating that." Liam's throat tightened. "Repeating what?" "That sentence," the voice said, "like you were trying to convince yourself." Liam whispered, "I didn't write that." "You did," the voice replied. "You just don't remember pressing the keys." Liam shook his head, though no one could see him. People don't just forget 18-minute phone calls. They do when they don't want to remember what they said. Liam swallowed hard. "What did I say?" A pause, longer this time. "You asked me if it was possible to ruin your life just by telling the truth." Liam felt a pressure in his chest. "And what did you say?" "I said yes, but that not telling it does damage too, just quieter." Liam closed his eyes. He had no memory of this, but something about the words felt familiar, too familiar. "Why are you calling me back?" Liam asked. Another pause. Because you asked me to. You said if I forgot, I should remind you. Liam opened his eyes. Remind me of what? The voice answered gently. Of the thing you're pretending isn't already eating you alive. Liam laughed once, sharp and humorless. You don't know anything about me. I know you rehearse conversations in your head instead of having them. I know you leave messages unsent. I know you say it's not the right time when you really mean I'm afraid. Liam's grip tightened on the phone. You don't sleep through the night, the voice continued. You wake up around 2. You scroll. You avoid the one name you want to tap. Liam's heart hammered. Stop. You asked me to stop you. That's the problem. Liam swallowed. What's your name? A brief hesitation. You didn't ask that last night. That doesn't answer the question. No, the voice agreed, but it matters. Liam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then tell me. Another pause. My name is irrelevant, the voice said. I'm not the point. Then what is? The call, the voice replied. The one you're avoiding. Liam's chest tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. You do, said the voice softly. You just don't want to hear it from yourself. Liam stared out through the windshield at the darkened building. Most of the windows were lit. Other people living their lives. Other people sleeping without this weight in their chest. What did I tell you last night? Liam asked quietly. The voice hesitated. You told me, it said, that you're in love with someone you're not supposed to be. Liam's breath caught. And you said, the voice continued, that pretending otherwise is starting to feel like lying to yourself. Liam's hands began to shake. That's not, he started. You didn't deny it then, the voice said. You just kept asking if silence could count as kindness. Liam squeezed his eyes shut. Does it? He asked. No, the voice replied. It just delays the damage. Liam exhaled slowly. Why would I call a stranger about this? You didn't call a stranger, the voice said. You found me because I don't know anyone involved. You said you needed someone who couldn't be hurt by the truth. Liam opened his eyes. So you're, what, a therapist? A faint, humorless laugh. No. Then who? A witness, the voice said. Liam swallowed. That's worse. I know. That's why you kept apologizing. For what? For not being brave enough to finish the conversation. You fell asleep mid-sentence. Liam's stomach dropped. What sentence? The voice took a breath. You said, if I don't tell her now, I never will. Liam's pulse spiked. Her. Liam stared at the dashboard, jaw clenched. You woke up, the voice continued, and you erased it. The call, the memory, almost everything. But your phone kept the evidence. Liam whispered, This is insane. Maybe, the voice said, but your heart rate says you believe me. Liam laughed weakly. You can't hear my heart rate. No, the voice agreed, but I can hear the pause before you breathe. Liam got quiet. Cars passed occasionally on the street behind him, headlights flashing briefly through the side mirror. What do you want? Liam asked finally. The voice replied without hesitation. I want you to do what you asked me to help you do. And that is? Make the call you're afraid of. Liam's throat tightened. I can't. You said that last night too, the voice replied, right before you dialed my number again. Liam shook his head. You don't understand the situation. I understand enough, the voice said. You're not afraid of rejection. You're afraid of confirmation. Liam swallowed hard. You're afraid that once it's said, you'll have to live in a different version of your life. Liam's eyes burned. And what if that version is worse? Then at least it's honest, the voice softened. Silence stretched between them. Liam glanced at his phone screen again. The call timer ticked upward. How long are we talking right now? He asked. The voice paused. 17 minutes. Liam's chest tightened. So this is happening again. Yes, the voice said. The difference is you're awake. Liam swallowed. If I hang up, you'll forget parts of this, the voice said. Not all of it, just enough to keep you stuck. Liam's fingers trembled. And if I don't? Then you'll remember, the voice replied. and remembering is uncomfortable. Liam laughed weakly. "You're very calm about all this." The voice answered quietly, "Because I don't have to live with the consequences." Liam closed his eyes. Her face came to mind. The way she smiled without realizing it, the conversations that almost crossed the line, the moments he'd edited in his head until they felt safe. Liam opened his eyes. "What happens after I make the call?" he asked. A brief hesitation. That part wasn't in last night's conversation. Liam nodded slowly. "Figures." He pulled his phone slightly away from his ear, thumb hovering over the end call button. "Are you still there?" the voice asked. "Yes," Liam said. "I'm thinking." "Good," the voice replied. "You didn't do much of that last night." Liam exhaled long and slow. "What if I ruin everything?" he asked. The voice answered softly. "You already are, just slowly enough that it feels survivable." Liam's thumb hovered. He thought of the draft message, of the calls he didn't remember making, of the way his chest felt lighter and heavier at the same time right now. "Stay on the line," he said quietly. "I will," the voice replied. Liam ended the call. The silence in the car felt louder than before. He didn't give himself time to rethink it. He opened his contacts, found her name. His finger hovered. Then he pressed call. It rang. Once, twice. Then someone answered. "Liam," said a voice, surprised. "Is everything okay?" The notification arrived at 2:08 a.m. Ethan was already awake. He usually was at that hour, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside his apartment window. So, when his phone lit up on the nightstand, it didn't startle him. What did startle him was the name, Mark H. Ethan sat up slowly and unlocked the screen. The message was short. "Mark, you shouldn't have ignored me." Ethan's heart dropped. Mark had been dead for 3 months. Not metaphorically dead, not "we don't talk anymore" dead. Dead. Ethan stared at the screen, waiting for the message to disappear, waiting for his brain to correct itself. It didn't. He opened the contact. Same number, same photo, same chat history ending with the last thing Ethan had ever sent. "I'll call you tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. Ethan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Ethan, who is this?" The typing dots appeared almost instantly, then stopped, then appeared again. "Mark, that's not funny." Ethan's mouth went dry. He locked the phone and threw it face down on the bed like it might bite him. His pulse hammered in his ears. This had to be a glitch, a hacked account, someone recycling numbers. He flipped the phone back over. Another message. "Mark, you said you'd call." Ethan swung his legs off the bed and stood up, pacing. His apartment felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Mark had been his best friend since college. Loud, reckless, the kind of guy who talked too much and laughed too hard. The kind of guy who showed up unannounced with beer and bad ideas. The kind of guy who died alone in his apartment after a night of drinking. Official cause? Heart failure. Unofficially, no one really knew. Ethan grabbed his phone again. "Ethan, this isn't possible." The reply came slower this time. "Mark, that's what you said the last night too." Ethan froze. The last night. The night Mark had called him. Ethan remembered the vibration of his phone, the name lighting up the screen, the way he'd sighed, annoyed, and silenced it. He'd been tired, busy. He told himself he'd call back in the morning. He never did. His phone buzzed again. "Mark, you always do that. You say tomorrow like it's guaranteed." Ethan's hands trembled. "Ethan, if this is some sick joke, stop." 3 dots, gone. A minute passed. Then another message appeared. "Mark, do you remember what I told you that night?" Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't remember clearly. He remembered seeing missed calls the next morning, 3 of them, all from Mark. He remembered the voicemail notification. He remembered not listening to it. His phone buzzed again. Mark, you never listened. Ethan's breath caught. Ethan, listened to what? The reply took longer this time. When it came, his stomach dropped. Mark, the message I left at 2:11 a.m. Ethan stared at the timestamp. Mark had died at 2:14 a.m. according to the report. Ethan opened his voicemail app with shaking fingers. There was one unheard message. Timestamp, 2:11 a.m. His vision blurred. He pressed play. At first, just static. Then Mark's voice. Not panicked, not drunk, quiet. Took you long enough, Mark said softly. If you're hearing this, it means you didn't pick up again. Ethan sat up slowly and limped. I need you to know something, Mark. Something I should have said earlier. Something I was too scared to say out loud. Ethan's throat tightened. I think something's wrong with me. Not medically, not like that. A pause. I think I've been repeating things. Ethan frowned. Not memories, moments, conversations, choices. Ethan's skin prickled. I think there are gaps, hours I can't explain, stuff in my apartment I don't remember buying, messages I don't remember sending. Ethan swallowed. And tonight, Mark said quietly, I realized why. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I think when we avoid things long enough, they don't disappear. They find other ways to stay. The voicemail cut off abruptly. Ethan stared at the screen. His phone buzzed. Mark, I didn't finish. Ethan, finish what? A pause. Explaining why I needed you to answer. Ethan's pulse raced. Ethan, how are you texting me? The reply came almost immediately. Mark, the same way you avoided me. Ethan frowned. What does that even mean? The dots appeared again. Mark, you know how when you don't deal with something, it just sits there? Ethan felt cold. Mark, waiting? Ethan's chest tightened. Ethan, are you saying you're still here? A long pause. Then, I don't think here works the way you think it does. Ethan stood up and walked to the kitchen, needing distance from the bed, from the phone, from the memory of Mark's laugh echoing in his head. He poured himself a glass of water and realized his hand was shaking badly enough to spill it. Ethan, what do you want from me? The reply didn't come right away. When it did, it was simple. Mark, I want you to stop pretending that later is harmless. Ethan stared at the screen. I can't fix what happened. Mark, I know. The words felt heavier than anger would have. Mark, this isn't about fixing. Ethan swallowed. Then what is it about? Another pause. Witnessing. Ethan frowned. Witnessing what? The reply came slowly. Me. Ethan's stomach twisted. Mark, I died alone, Ethan. The words sat there, brutal in their simplicity. Mark, not because no one loved me, but because everyone assumed there would be more time. Ethan's eyes burned. I'm sorry. 3 dots. Appeared, disappeared. Then, I know. That's why this hurts. Ethan sank into a chair. Ethan, why me? Why now? The answer came almost gently. Because you're still doing it. Ethan frowned. Doing what? Mark, skipping the hard conversations, postponing the uncomfortable stuff, saying, I'll call tomorrow. Ethan's chest tightened. Mark, you're not cruel, you're avoidant. Ethan closed his eyes. Ethan, that doesn't make me a murderer. A long pause. Then, no, but it makes you complicit. Ethan's breath caught. Ethan, that's not fair. Mark, neither is dying with a phone in your hand. Ethan's hands clenched. Ethan, what do you want me to do? The typing dots blinked. Mark, listen. Ethan's throat tightened. Listen to what? The things you keep postponing. Ethan stared at the message. You're asking me to change my whole life because you're dead? The reply came slower. I'm asking you to change it because you're alive. Silence stretched between messages. Ethan whispered, This isn't real. His phone buzzed. Mark, then why are you crying? Ethan wiped his face angrily. Ethan, if you're really Mark, why does this feel like goodbye? The reply took a long time. So long, Ethan thought it wasn't coming. Then, because I don't get to stay. Ethan's chest tightened. So this is it? Mark, this is the part where you don't look away. Ethan swallowed hard. I don't know how. Mark, start small. Ethan frowned. Call your sister. Ethan blinked. What? Mark, you've been avoiding her for months. Ethan's stomach dropped. Mark, tell her the thing you're scared will change everything. Ethan whispered, How do you know that? The reply came instantly. Because I used to be you. Ethan's breath caught. Ethan, and if you don't? The typing dots paused. Mark, then this keeps happening. Ethan stared at the screen. What happens to you? The reply was softer than the others. Mark, I fade. Ethan's throat tightened. I don't want that. Mark, then don't waste the time I don't have. Ethan looked at the phone for a long moment. Then his screen went dark. No typing dots, no last message, nothing. Ethan stood there, shaking, the quiet of the apartment settling around him again. He checked the chat. The conversation was still there, but Mark's contact photo was gone, just a blank circle. Ethan looked at the time, 2:14 a.m., the same minute Mark died.